Hi, my name is Michael Stewart. I am an activist, an artist, and a occultist. And I wanted to take some time today to share a story with you all. It's a family story of mine, um, and it's told through the eyes of my great grandmother Ruthie, as she's observing her mother Grace, so my great great grandmother. And this story is pretty important to me. It was passed all the way down to my mother, who passed it on to me when I was having a very difficult time. And I imagine ever since recent events here, other people are having hard times and struggling. I know I even have, and when I do, I try to remember this story, because it always helps straighten me out a little bit. For some context, I think this story just hit 100 years old, roughly. My great grandmother Ruthie was born in 1918, and this story is told by her as a little girl observing her mother. So we could probably put her at like 6, 7 years old, which put it about 1925 that this occurred, post World War One. Just a few years before the Great Depression is going to kick off. And it starts like this. My family's always just been poor farmers, as far back as I can tell. And Granny Ruthie was a young girl. She was sitting under a tree watching her mother, Grace, plow a field. And you have to remember, once again, 1925, they didn't even have tractors. Hell, I bet you Grace was lucky if she even had an animal there. The way the story was presented to me, she didn't even have a horse or a mule or anything like this to pull this plow. That Grace was in this field in the middle of Missouri. It's August, it's hot, it's miserable and humid. The ground is just filled with rocks, hard to plow. And she doesn't even have an animal. She has strapped the plow to herself. And she's also carrying another baby. She's got a baby swaddled, and is carrying it while pulling this plow. And Granny's watching my great grandmother struggle and sweat and fall and bust her knees and scrape her knuckles and try to maintain watch over children while doing this intense, heavy labor. And Grandpa, great-great-grandpa, was probably off in some other field plowing, getting something ready that he had to do. So he wasn't there to help. She was on her own. This was her responsibility. And somewhere about halfway through the plowing, Granny says she remembers watching Grace fall, hit the ground hard, lose her reins to the plow, just clutch the baby and hit the ground. Grace was hurt. She was crying. She looked up at the sky and she screamed. She said, "This isn't fair. I shouldn't have to burden all of this on myself. I'm being asked too much. I don't think I can go on anymore." And she screamed and she yelled at God and she said whatever polite women at that period of time probably said. And then after a few moments, Her crying calmed down. She stood up. She knocked the dirt off herself, readjusted the baby, calmed the baby from crying, picked up her tools, and went back to work. Started dragging that plow again. And by the end of the day, when they left, that field had been plowed. Grace was beaten up and sore and tired, but she held it together. She got the job done. She got her responsibilities handled, no matter how unfair they were. When I was told this story, I was in a place in my life where I really, really wanted to give up. I just wanted to lay down and die. To give up on everything. And my mother told me this story. And she said, it's okay for you to have that moment. For you to cry and to scream and to cuss out God and say, go fuck yourself. I don't deserve this. But after you have that moment, you get back up and you do your fucking job. You finish the work. You don't get to give up. Giving up is not an option. Feel yourself. Express yourself how you need to. Then get back up and do the work. I didn't have much father figures growing up. They all were something lacking. Nothing consistent in my life. So my mother taught me to be a strong woman instead. And this is often referred to in our family, the lesson on how to be a strong woman. And it inspires me more than probably most other lessons I've learned in my life. I'm glad to have that connection with my past, and I hope sharing it with you all whenever you find yourself sad and lost and ready to give up, to lay down and die, you remember Grace taking that time and screaming at the sky, and then getting back up, and you do the same thing. You get back up and you finish the work. That was lessons from my mom. All right. Hell, Satan.